Leroy Sane, of course, linked to a move from Manchester City to Bayern Munich. Hoeness, though, is doubtful about whether or not it will happen. You have to be a bit skeptical. It is unlikely that it will work. It's about sums. They're insane. Meanwhile, Rummenigge had this to say. First, the player has to decide whether he can imagine coming to Bayern. The player is the most important factor. Apparently, Leroy has not yet decided. Sporting director, I don't know, it's bloody hell, Pete.
Hasan Salihamidzic. Between skeptical and Salihamidzic, you got it, Dan.
Salihamidzic.
Salihamidzic.
A lot of speculation about the future of Leroy Sane. Bayern Munich, obviously a possible destination. Hoeness had this to say. You have to be a bit skeptical. It is unlikely that it will work. It's about sums. They're insane. Meanwhile, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge had this to say. First, the player has to decide whether he can imagine coming to Bayern. The player is the most important factor. Apparently, Leroy has not yet decided. Salihamidzic is leading the talks for us. I think he is an exciting player. Raf, how's this one going to end?
As a rule of thumb, it's never good news when Bayern start talking a lot about transfers. The fact that Karl-Heinz Rummenigge is even name-checking Hasan Salihamidzic, leading the negotiations, almost sounds to me as if he's setting him up as the guy who's going to get the blame if this doesn't work out. So I think we have to take this almost at face value. If they say they're skeptical, if they say they're not sure what the player really wants, it expresses their frustrations and the lack of conviction on the other side to force this through. When they talk about big money, it's not just City, it's also the player's wages. A player who, of course, hasn't renewed his contract at City so far, presumably, at least in some part, for the same reasons. So it doesn't look good for Bayern at the moment. I think that is the bottom line.
Stephen, if you're Leroy Sane, what do you do?
I think you go. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he has to do to get in this City side, even when they have injuries. He is still on the bench. I think of at the end of the season when Riyad Mahrez gets in before him. So I think he should go. This guy has to play. And I think 70 million is about right for him as well.
I agree fully. I mean, for me, every time I see Leroy Sane come off the bench for Manchester City, I think he changes the games. And given that you see that when he does get an opportunity, and yet still he somehow doesn't feature in Pep Guardiola's starting plans at the very least, suggests that you weigh down the pecking order. And City, given the club that they are, given the kind of money that they spend, I know there are question marks about financial fair play. You just feel that doesn't get any better. At the same time, a club like Bayern Munich and the expected changes that they are going to be undergoing in terms of getting back to where they feel they rightly belong, you'd want to be at the front of that queue.
Raf, how telling is it that over the past few days or past few weeks we've heard Eriksen come out, he's unhappy, maybe looking to move, Hazard obviously as well. We've heard absolutely nothing from Leroy Sane.
Well, I think it's difficult for him to say anything because he's with Germany in Germany. So I think he has to kind of keep his counsel a little bit. Otherwise, it'll be open season. And it might well reflect the ambiguity that he feels. I think from what I read between the lines, for the right money, for the right package, for the right sort of vision, he might be tempted. But I think Bayern, for whatever reason, haven't been able to put that across. And also seem as if they are nowhere near finding an agreement with City. I mean, let's put these numbers together. If City really wants something close to 100 million euros, and this guy wants a 4-year deal, you're talking almost 200 million euros, come everything. And that, even for Bayern, is a lot of money. And I think when Rummenigge says he needs to make up his mind, it sounds to me as if he's trying to get him to accept something that would work better in Bayern's wage structure. But he's probably not willing to, and why should he?